name's Margaret Locklear, and my co-host is Jules Dunn and Howie.
Good morning, everyone. We're so happy that you've joined us, and we have an esteemed panel for today's conversation. Let them introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Drew. I am the first Vice President for the Montgomery County Commission for Women. I'm also an attorney employed by the federal government and happy to serve you.
Good morning. I'm Ann Colt-Litis. I am the Division Chief for the Special Victims Unit for the City of Baltimore State's Attorney's Office, and I'm a candidate for Anne Arundel County State's Attorney.
Hi, I'm Barbara Robinson, Senator Barbara Robinson. I was in the House of Delegates for 10 years. I've been a state senator for 2 years, and I'm running for re-election representing the 40th Legislative District in Baltimore City.
Hi, my name is Pam Luby, and I'm an attorney and businesswoman in Anne Arundel County. I'm also the former chair of the Anne Arundel County Commission for Women, and I'm running for delegate in District 33.
Thank you, ladies. It's just wonderful to have such an esteemed panel here today. Thank you very much. Our topic of discussion today, the first one is going to be about gun control. And I'm going to shoot it over to Jules, who's done a lot of research on this issue, and we'd like to hear from you ladies.
So specifically what we want to talk about is youth and guns. And we all know about the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, the recent shooting. And so when you look at that shooting left 17 people dead. Students and adults were among the victims, and at least 14 others were actually wounded. And so there was a 19-year-old male suspect, Nicholas Cruz, who has now been charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder. And so the real question for us is how do we deal with this issue of youth and guns, and what do we need to do legislatively to address it? Because this 19-year-old was able to obtain 10 rifles within the last year. What do you think we should do, ladies?
I really do feel that we need to have more control on the sale of guns to young people. That's number one. And I will probably get flack from saying this, but I also think that we need to make the punishment a little bit harsher. Because when someone kills somebody, it doesn't matter whether you're 14 or 50, the person is dead. So rather than saying that we can't send this person to prison or we can't impose, and the attorney sitting here might disagree, but you can't impose this amount of time because the person is quote unquote young. I'm sorry, if you have a gun, then you're acting as an adult, and in some cases, I think that you should be treated as an adult.
Well, that goes to the whole issue of should you be allowed to buy a gun before you're 21 years of age?
Absolutely not.
I think it's much better to try and prevent crime from happening instead of reacting to it after the fact. It's too late, as you said, someone's dead, whether they're dead by the hands of a teenager or an adult. So if we want to put children first, we need to find out a way to prevent guns from getting into the hands of young people. And common sense approach, such as raising the age to 21, if you can't even buy beer or wine or liquor until you're 21, why are people able to buy guns under the age of 21? That's a start.
I agree, and I also think that I think Maryland is doing some things. We have they were contemplating the Red Flag Act or some legislation around that in terms of people who are in the households of someone who presents some red flags, such as this young man did, and they will now have some path to at least report a potential issue and possibly be able to have those guns taken away. Definitely, I think that I agree with my colleague here that we definitely need to be proactive and raise the limit on the age that you can buy guns, because I think that's important. I don't think that an 18-year-old, particularly there should not be even a disparity between you can buy a certain type of rifle or gun and then, at 18, but, and then one that you can do at 21. I think they should all be at 21. That's the age to drink, and that's the legal age that you should be able to purchase a handgun or any kind of weapon.
Pam, what do you think?
Well, I think it comes from the top. I mean, I think that we have to start and take the power away from the NRA. And if we look at what those young people are doing in Florida, it is absolutely amazing. I'm not sure if you know who Emma Gonzalez is, but she started her Twitter feed. She has 1.5 million followers now in 2 weeks, whereas the NRA has taken almost 9 years to develop 500 or 640,000 followers. So I'm just pleased to see what these young people are doing because they're shifting the conversation all the way to the top. I mean, when you have 3 teenagers that are taking on Marco Rubio, and Marco Rubio looks like the teenager in the group, it's pretty impressive.
Very, very. And to me, it says that, young people are underestimated.
True.
And especially in this day and time, because they're so technologically savvy, they know how to get themselves organized at the drop of a dime. So it's.
I think their power is underestimated. Sometimes they underestimate themselves, how much they can actually affect change.
Yes.
And that's what seems to be coming now, that young people know that if they galvanize, that they really can affect change.
Right. And I think it's also important that as adults that we are supporting them as well.
Yeah.
I think they have a really powerful message. They have a powerful method of engagement because you have social media, and I think there are a lot of different movements now, like the Me Too movement, the women's movement, and I think now you see the youth now getting politically engaged and getting civically engaged, whereas maybe they would not have done so before. They may have had these thoughts, and they may have had just the drive to do so, but just on the numbers and the scale that you see now and the time frame in which they get organized, it's astounding and it's amazing. And I really, it's really amazing to me to watch. But I think that we as adults, because some of them are not even of legal age to vote.
Well, can I interject here, though? My main issue is private sales. The gun shows, how do you control that? I mean, you can stop the NRA, you can raise the limits, you can say no more assault rifles, but you can go to a gun show and buy whatever you like. So how do we do that? How do we control that? And also with background checks. You don't
You don't even have to go to a gun show. That was one of the elected officials at one of his fundraisers.
Oh, right.
Exactly, just recently.
Right.
Raffling it off, right? A raffle.
And they're having another one, just in case you know.
And who knows where those guns will end up.
The gunman in Vegas that shot all of those people, the guy who sold him the guns is going to be charged as well as an accessory because he was caught there.
That's one of the bills that we're putting in now, bump stock, to prevent the guns from actually, and that's the type that he used when he was in Las Vegas. Just repeat.
Well, there's also a bill before the House that would relax the standards for getting a permit for a handgun. And if that bill were to pass, it would result in over 100,000 new handgun permit applications in 2019.
I don't think it's going to pass.
Okay, good.
I think people also need to keep something else in mind. As a prosecutor, I've seen a lot of cases where young people get a gun from their parents because the gun is not locked up. I think about 50% of all guns are not properly stored in the household. So it's against the law to have firearms accessed by a minor. So everyone out there who owns a gun, the number one thing that you can do is make sure it's in a safe place, that it's locked up, that it can't get into the wrong hands. Same thing with burglaries and thefts of that sort of thing. A lot of guns are stolen in crimes, and then they're used in other crimes. So if everyone can do their best to keep their guns safe and locked up, that would go a long way.
And instead of when you do have it locked up, rather than having the young person have the key, because that's what happened in Florida. Although the gun was locked up in the house, he still had the key.
Right.
So what difference does it make if you're still gonna give them access?
But you know, it's really important, Ann's point too, because in the United States, over 1.69 million kids age 18 and under are living in households with loaded and unlocked firearms. That is nothing but an accident waiting to happen.
Absolutely.
And so that's where the onus does, I believe, go back on to the parents and the adults that decided to bring a firearm into the home. And then it's your responsibility to ensure that you are taking the adequate responsibility to keep it away from anyone other than yourself.
You know, we are, when I say we, as the senator in the 40th district, I'm collaborating with a business owner in Baltimore, where we are having, and with the police department, where we are having, we are giving computers for guns.
Wow.
And not only we're giving computers for the guns, we will even train you to use the computers. So that's coming up in March of this year. We have done that once before. Getting money doesn't seem to work by back, but we're trying to do the little bit that we can in order to stop the guns from coming into Baltimore.
So the last thing I want us to really make sure we touch on is the whole notion of arming teachers and the schools. What do you all think about that?
Well, I'll just say, I come from a family of educators. Educators are supposed to educate. They should be in the classroom, and unless you are teaching how to use a firearm, I don't think that they should be armed with guns. I think that the more guns in the classroom, I don't think makes people safe. It may give the appearance to some, but I don't think we should put the onus on teachers to have that responsibility. You have law enforcement. So let's focus on what the law enforcement or security should be doing in the schools. The teachers are there to teach. And I know that I don't think I would feel comfortable having, I mean, my daughter is an adult now, but I don't think I would feel comfortable sending her to school and everybody's armed like it's the Wild Wild West. So,
Anyone else?
I agree. I don't think that teachers should be worrying about taking lessons in firearms. I think that they should be concentrating on teaching our children. Because if you look at the way that the teachers are being inundated now with a classroom of 30 and 40 students, and unruly students at that. So if you're in a classroom and you have this weapon on, that just adds another fuel for one of those teachers, one of those students that's bigger and larger and more daring, you know, to challenge the teacher. So it could be a real room for catastrophe. No, I totally disagree.
Okay, ladies, thank you very much. Right now, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. next topic is going to be about DACA and the Dreamers. So I'm going to send it over to Jules and let her start the discussion.
So the second topic that we're going to talk about this morning is DACA and Dreamers. And specifically, I want us to peel back the onion and talk about the real immigration issue when we think about DACA and Dreamers. So DACA was introduced in 2012 by President Barack Obama as a stopgap measure that would shield from deportation people who were brought into the United States as children. Their status would be renewable, and it lasts for 2 years if they registered. But the program is not a pathway to citizenship. Now, DACA recipients, they've been able to come out of the shadows, obtain valid driver's license, enroll in college, and legally secure jobs, and they pay their income taxes. But DACA recipients are known as dreamers. And so it's all been called this whole Dreamers Act. And the real question is, and the issue is that you have these dreamers, and dreamers have become kind of a code word for how do we change immigration policy in the United States. Because what we see is not really dealing with the issue of dreamers, but dealing more with how do we change and deal with topics such as chain migration, okay? And chain migration is the language that's used, to actually talk about when you come over and you're given immigrant status in the United States, you can now bring your family. And your family can actually get preferential treatment to be brought over because the United States believes that it's important to keep family together, or we did believe that. Well, now the legislation using dreamers in this whole issue of DACA is saying, how do we roll that back? And how do we not give preference to keeping families whole, but how do we just focus it more on people who have the right skill sets to meet what we think are the industry needs in the United States? What do y'all think?
Well, I will say it seems to be, the two sides seem to be in conflict, of course, but here's why. If a lot of what the one side says is they're about family, they're about keeping families together, and then on the other hand, it's, you know, we want to break them apart. Mm-hmm. I think that, I don't know when it happened, but I feel like America used to be the land of opportunity. It used to be very welcoming. We wanted you to come here and feel like you could be part of the whole mix and the potluck and diversity of cultures, of you know, just people across the world. And I just think it's just heartless to say that, you know, you can come in, but, you know, we're going to break up your family. To do so. And I think that I don't see any evidence of people who have been committed criminal acts who are part of this DACA program, and then just looking at the criteria for the DACA program. You know, you got to pay a fee, you got to be enrolled in school, you have to have been under 16 before you got here. I mean, there are lots of criteria where you have to show yourself as being a model citizen. Right. And I just, it seems like they're finding ways to penalize them. And I'll just say one other point. I sit on the, I serve on the Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, which is a group of agencies and advocacy groups for Montgomery County, and we just collaborate on ways to address the domestic violence issues. And one of the issues that we have seen is with the rollback of DACA on the federal level, and now sort of farming out to the states the impact, you now have people who are not coming in for services as much. So someone who is abused is now, you know, a little reticent about coming in and, you know, getting help from it because they fear that they will be reported and deported.
Absolutely. I see that as a prosecutor all the time when we would have someone who is an immigrant who is a victim of a crime, especially domestic violence, being afraid to come to the courthouse and testify because something would happen. And when you have that, when you have people afraid to report crime or to come to court, then it's going to impact your city, your community, and it touches every part of our lives. So we have to be welcoming to the people who are here. We have to extend a hand. We still have immigration laws that have to be enforced, but we cannot isolate people because they come from somewhere else. It's a very complicated issue, immigration, but what I can say is we need people to be part of the community, to be part of law enforcement and prosecuting cases, and not turn our back on them, these important issues.
You know, discrimination in any form is discrimination, and there's no way, as an African-American woman, that I can say that because you are different, that you should not be here. I've been discriminated against because I'm a woman. I've been discriminated against because I'm a black woman. I've been discriminated against because I'm black, and also because of the color of my skin, which is totally different than being black. The shade of my skin is what I'm saying. So in order for people to say, for you not to come here, you have to be discriminated against. And at one time, Maryland, the United States was thought of as a melting pot. You know, everybody comes in and you melt into this one thing called an American. That means that you get rid of everything that you've known, and you know, but I don't see that. America is like a salad bowl. You know, you all come in and you maintain your own flavor, your own uniqueness, and that's what makes America great, the fact that we are unique. So I don't see immigration as a way of the future, what we should be concentrating on. We should be concentrating on keeping America great, not making America great again. We're already great. You know, so keeping it great, and to keep it great, it takes us all. You know, it takes the uniqueness of every culture, of every race coming in and doing our part to keep America great. So I'm not about immigrant. There's laws, you know, as one of my colleagues said, that you have to follow immigration laws. I mean, we have laws and everything, but not to the extent of exclusion.
Pam, what do you think?
Well, I think that, you know, President Obama signed DACA as an executive order because the DREAM Act couldn't get passed. And so now we have President Trump trying unsuccessfully to dismantle the DACA program. You know, the recent Supreme Court, you know, deciding not to hear you know, upholding it, puts everything on hold. It allows DACA recipients to renew. So that's a great thing. But I think really the bottom line is that we need to get a DREAM Act passed, and it's not going to happen with our current Congress. So it's all about 2018. We have the opportunity to get the right people in office so we can finally get this passed once and for all.
And so what the real issue is Dreamers now. Oh, perfect. That is a perfect segue for us because it is all about 2018 and it is all about the elections.
Okay, so we'll be right back, so don't go anywhere.
I want to thank you and thank everybody. This has been a really, really enjoyable experience.
Hey, I'm Margaret Lockley, and I want to thank you for joining us at a place at the table. And I hope to see you the next time when you take your place at the table.